between 2013 and 2016, I kind of focused more on my professional craft, right? So just getting better at my day-to-day job. And I left crypto alone, to be honest, for a couple of years. And what brought me back was one of my co-founders, Phil Vidala. He goes, hey, there's this thing called Ethereum, you should check it out. And so that was in 2015. I can't remember the month now, but that blew me away. I was like, hang on a second. So we can write a smart contract and effectively have a program running anywhere in the world, and it's not sitting on a Windows server or a Linux server. Like, that just blew me away.
That is Tim Bess, and this is episode 24 of the Blockchain Pro podcast. Hello and welcome to episode 24 of the Blockchain Pro podcast. I'm Adriana Bellotti, and I must say I'm really glad to be here and having this platform to share the stories of the people working to build a decentralized world. Web 3.0 is the future. I'm super psyched. Today's guest is Tim Bess. Tim is the co-founder and CEO of Block8, a Sydney-based blockchain business venture studio. He started his career in computer services, working his way up to enterprise software sales until he discovered Bitcoin and saw himself going down the rabbit hole like so many of us. And yes, we had a chat a few weeks ago. I had to edit a little bit around the 10 minutes mark because my phone went off on its own and interrupted us. But don't worry, because we did back up a little bit, so you won't miss anything. But let's get right into it and get to know Tim. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Adriana.
How are you doing?
Very well. I'm surviving not necessarily post-COVID world at the moment at home.
Post strict social distancing rules world.
Yeah, not fun.
Anyway,
Cool.
Thanks for being here today. Let's go back in time to how you started your career, your professional life.
Well, so I'm 36 now, so I've been working for about 20 years. My first IT job was a computer shop in Western Sydney when I was, I think, 16 or something, and I was building computers. So I was absolutely in love with computers from day one, to be honest. So yeah, old enough to remember the world before the internet, but young enough to actually know how to use it. Yeah, always use computers, love them completely. And it kind of set me on a path. So I guess I started in a computer shop, and then I naturally went into consulting. So I went sort of into the systems engineering IT industry. So for about, how long? Probably 12 years, I worked for, different IT service providers. So I was never in internal IT. I always had sort of multiple customers. I was always sort of billing people, building projects. And the way that kind of goes, it's quite a kind of standard formula. So you start off on the help desk, you kind of earn your stripes, fixing sort of, business as usual problems. And then over time, you build that experience. So in my kind of part of the world, I was very much focused on the Microsoft skill set. So, you become an MCSE, which is a Microsoft certified systems engineer, you do all of these exams. And you kind of move up in the world, right? So in the end, I worked for a couple of fantastic companies, actually. I worked for one company by the name of Inspire IT from about 2007 to 2013, which was acquired by a company called Ricoh, which is a big photocopier company. And so at the time, that company was divesting a little bit out of print, which is their core business, and they were looking at more sort of technology, so the rest of office technology like IT and stuff like that. So by that stage, I was a senior consultant. I was sort of an expert in sort of Microsoft technology, but also VMware and Citrix. So very enterprise stuff. And, that naturally took me into pre-sales. So, I tried my best to stay as close to the technology as possible, but as soon as I discovered Bitcoin in 2013, the penny dropped. So I don't have to convince you how good Bitcoin is.
No, you don't.
Yeah, so it's funny because as I moved towards sort of doing more more pre-sales consulting, so in other words, supporting salespeople and kind of focusing on sort of proposals and high-level solutions, I kind of naturally moved away from being on the tools. So I kind of missed that. So when when I heard of Bitcoin in 2013, it was funny. I kind of saw an opportunity to start doing mining. Now, at the time, even in 2013, it was pretty much impossible to mine Bitcoin. So I started mining altcoins like Litecoin and stuff like that. So I went out, and my then girlfriend, now wife at the time, was really very upset about this. But I took $10,000 out of my savings and I bought 10 AMD 280X video cards. I bought 3 motherboards, a bunch of graphics card risers, and I built 3 mining rigs.
Wow.
Yeah, so I went all in. And so I had a spare room at my mum's place that I'd kind of fitted out to be this mining room. So I had scripts running and it would crash all the time and I'd have to get it restarted. It was just pretty embarrassing.
And which altcoins were you mining?
I was mining Litecoin and Dogecoin.
Oh, Dogecoin.
Yeah, so my strategy was, well, those script coins you can get, the mining pools were quite small back then. So I just picked a couple of what I thought were winners, and then my strategy was to move them into Bitcoin as often as I could. And back then, Bitcoin was like $700. So it was pretty crazy. I wish I held on to it. So that scratched the itch for a bit. And I continued to work in the IT profession until 2016. So by that stage, a number of the IT companies I'd worked for were acquired. So I was an employee in those companies, and I kind of went through a number of these kind of consolidations of multiple teams, and I started to kind of get sick of that. So by the end of, I think, the 3rd acquisition, I said to myself, I think I can do it better, and I want to create my own company. And I want to sort of take the lessons that I've learned in my career, both positive and negative, and start something that I can build from the ground up. So there was a bit of anarchist in there. I kind of felt like I'm spending a lot of time and energy working for the man, and I reckon I can do better. So I've learned 3.5 years later with a lot of grey hair, that's actually not that easy.
I was going to ask that. How did thinking that you had lots of experience and you were ready to have, your own company compared to the actual implementation and creation of a new business and hiring people? And how was the dream compared to the reality?
You know what? The honeymoon period lasted for about a year. So this is just before the crypto boom, right? So this is, late 2016. And I think we even started a bit earlier than that. We incorporated, I think, in September 2016. But, the key was that I actually had a couple I'm one of 4 founders, right? So I had a couple of great people that I'd had success with in the past. So we founded the business together. So I think, that actually got us a long way. So, the downside to having 4 founders is there's 4 founders and, you don't get everything done. You're not the only guy in the room, but the upside is huge when you can rely on different people's skills. So just learning basic, business skills, how to, invoice. I mean, I knew that much, but, like for instance, PAYG and all the sort of accounting things you have to start thinking about, that became real pretty quickly. So I was super lucky to have some really good partners that I could kind of rely on. And at the time, we all tipped in a bit of money each, which, when you added it up together was a bit more than I could possibly handle. So I am confident that if I did it alone, I would have failed for sure, because I would have been probably too bullish and I wouldn't have sort of seen my blind spots at the time. But so I think the destination always looks, not necessarily easy, but it looks, it's a very romantic idea, creating your own company and going all in. But depending on your risk profile, like, are you going to put your house on the line? Are you going to put all your cash in this thing? So I guess with 4 founders, we were able to de-risk that a bit, right? So we kind of told ourselves that we would keep the business small enough that we could always step in and save it if something happens. So we didn't want to grow too quick. And 3.5 years later, we've got 50 people. So it's been a crazy journey.
Tell us a little bit about the company then. What did you build?
Yes. So I'm the CEO. And like I said, there are 4 founders. So we've taken a couple of different, pivots in the journey. In the beginning, we sort of set up to be a blockchain incubator. So we wanted to kind of work with early stage founders, and we truly believe in crypto and the DLT in general. So we felt like if we found a subject matter expert and somebody who really had a passion for the thing they're solving, then, for us, we're, commercial guys, we're technologists, we've, delivered big projects before. We felt that we could bring a lot to the conversation, and together we could joint venture and build, a company from scratch, either a crypto company or just a traditional equity-based company. And we would take, we'd co-invest effectively with that customer. And if we win, we both win. If we lose, well, we both lose. Yeah. So that was the first version of our business. So we kept our team really small. We only had a few contractors. We were all working full-time jobs somewhere, and we kind of part-timed it for a long time. So that first version was really fun, really, really awesome. But like anything, as you grow and you make mistakes and you learn, there's a new level of sophistication required, and that's usually when the grind starts. That was the first kind of iteration of our business.
Yep.
So in that stage, we had 2 early customers that we started working with. One by the name of Australian Mortgages, Australian Mortgage technically, and they're a neobank. So they have a bunch of experience in that industry. But essentially, our goal was to use a DLT to effectively securitize investment funds and create mortgages. So effectively, bringing mortgages to bear to the market without a lot of the friction that currently exists. So they can now currently, as of today, write a mortgage in 15 minutes, for instance. So it's super interesting. So that was one sort of traditional use case. And the other one was Havven. So Havven was a stablecoin project that we started working on at the end of 2016. It ended up being the largest ICO in Australia. It's now pivoted to Synthetix. So at that stage, we're talking really early days before, it got crazy out there. But we did some really cool things with them as well. So I guess beyond that stage, then we started to kind of move away from being an incubator to being an officially like a venture studio. So our goal was to take less projects, but a sort of slightly more mature project. So rather than the really early sort of pitch deck projects, we're looking for customers that maybe have raised some capital already. Maybe they've already got sort of a valuation, and we're kind of taking them from 0 to 1, if that makes sense. And that's been our core business for a long time. So we've had a lot of really good projects in that space, and I can talk, I guess, some more about them as well. And then more recently, we've completed our Series A. So we did that in December last year. So the goal of that was to obviously scale the team, but also to do, I guess, more of our own ventures. So we're building products and ventures for ourselves now at Block8, but also scaling into enterprise. So we're doing, now that we've got this experience and I guess this, the systems and processes to support it, we're doing a lot more with our sort of enterprise partners and solving, I guess, larger problems. So for instance, rather than dealing with a smaller startup, we might be looking to sort of, work with, say, Woolworths or something to kind of optimize their value chain using DLT, right? So very much a big end of town play. But I guess that kind of sets us apart. Like we have still that kind of crypto anarchist love in our DNA, but we're also, seasoned professionals, and we know what it takes to get, a business case written and how to get things funded and how to have the appropriate governance and controls to build a thing. We're loving it at the moment.
So between 2013 and mining your Litecoins,
Mhm.
going through this journey of creating your own business, launching ICOs, and now pivoting to enterprise. What have you seen as the evolution of the blockchain ecosystem?
Good question. It's funny, when I first discovered Bitcoin, like I knew it was going to be massive. So at the time, I was really excited about cloud. So for me, that was just another level of, sophistication over a data center full of kit. And a data center full of kit was, another level above a computer in a server room, right? So when I saw Bitcoin, I just thought, wow, this is going to be incredible. But what I didn't see at the time was the scripting language, that being able to program above it. And I just didn't see it at the time. So I saw it as a sort of a way of cross-border payments and all the great things we love Bitcoin for. But honestly, it was more of a speculative asset for me at the time. I was just mining it, like I said. So when I can sort of between 2013 and 2016, I kind of focused more on my professional craft, right? So just getting better at my day-to-day job. And I left crypto alone, to be honest, for a couple of years. And what brought me back was one of my co-founders, Phil Vidala. He goes, "Hey, there's this thing called Ethereum. You should check it out." And so that was in 2015. I can't remember the month now, but that blew me away. I was like, "Hang on a second. So we can write a smart contract and effectively have a program running anywhere in the world, and it's not sitting on a Windows server or a Linux server." Like, it just blew me away. So yeah, that got me back into it. So then I was really digging into, like, how do we do something with this? Ethereum is, I hate to say it, a game changer, but because I hear it all the time. But it is, and it was. So yeah, so we did the classic kind of whiteboarding for ages. Every weekend we're on the whiteboard trying to figure out what to do with it. So I guess for me, Ethereum was the thing. I've been so close to this now for almost 4 years since Ethereum came out, roughly. And for me, it hasn't improved enough for my liking. I think that it's really good around the edges, like the tooling's improved, and there's a lot of developers who can build amazing things on top of it, but it hasn't quite taken that step yet. And I had a theory for a while that Bitcoin's massive innovation was double spend problem, or cross-border payments. People kind of cite a number of the key benefits of Bitcoin, but let's call it, the double spend problem. And let's say Ethereum's, key innovation was smart contracts, right?
Mm-hmm.
How realistic is it to expect somebody to do a once in a generation innovation? And the answer is pretty low, actually. So is it realistic for Satoshi Nakamoto to appear today and do smart contracts or sharding or something? Probably low, right?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of had this kind of theory in my head that maybe Ethereum has done its best, and that someone else is going to take what Bitcoin's done and what Ethereum's done and create the next thing, and then that'll be their innovation, their once in a generation thing they're known for, their iPhone moment. So, and the reason why I say that is because a lot of these blockchains are so big now, and there's so much, I guess, invested interest, that it's sometimes impossible to make. It's in fact impossible to make everybody happy, and they haven't baked in the governance controls to kind of upgrade these systems. So I think that's been a real issue. But I mean, hopefully Ethereum can solve that, and they're making a bunch of progress on Ethereum 2.0, and some great teams in Australia, like the Sigma Prime Boys and Flex Dapps, have been doing work on that. So so I have seen it move a lot. I think most of the public understand what it is now. It's not kind of like a grimy, dirty secret that crypto used to be. There's a level of sophistication with it. But yeah, I have been a bit frustrated with the development speed of it. I think it's going to take a little bit longer to see it where it needs to be. I mean, most of the applications we're building, just through complete necessity and the ability, like for us to commercialize a product, right, for us to get it to the market, you've got to make some pretty big sacrifices on how much blockchain is in it, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
and how much, so are you going to sacrifice UX, or you're going to sacrifice, speed, or whatever the case may be. So, it's really common for us to build most of our applications on traditional Web 2.0 technology in a contemporary way. Of course, like it's all, GCP and AWS stuff. but the blockchain serves a specific need inside of its application, right? So my vision is to see, completely fully featured applications running on blockchains in the future. And so because that's kind of my goal and my hope, incremental, taking a blockchain from 10 TPS to 20 TPS doesn't really get me excited. So I find it a bit frustrating.
Yeah, that's my vision too. But I think if we're doing a podcast in May 2030,
oh yeah,
we might be halfway there.
Yeah. And like, to be honest, the difference between now and 2013 is incredible. I have this number burnt into my head. I know it's a dollar number and it's not necessarily a technology number, but I think Bitcoin's market cap was 6 billion in 2013. And I looked at it today, it's 184 billion in a semi-bear market. So, that's a lot of people who have bought some Bitcoin. So the world's taken notice.
Well, that's a lot of governments not doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's also true. So yeah.
So you probably hire a lot of people in your capacity of, getting these projects off the ground and delivering to your customers. What is the best profile that someone needs to work in this space?
Yeah, it's a good question. In the early days, we were looking for computer science and economics guys, really smart people. I mean, you need smart people regardless, and we still need that type of person. But as our business has become a little bit more mature and a little bit more sophisticated, we've started, we've now got, product owners and agile delivery managers and data scientists and engineering from a development perspective, but also from a like a blockchain. Sorry, what am I trying to say here? Like engineering from a sort of infrastructure perspective and engineering from a development perspective, testing engineers. So they're all different profiles. I think what's common across a lot of them is most of them have a computer science degree. But that doesn't necessarily rule anybody out. So I actually didn't go to university. So I'm rather proud of that in hindsight. So I took the much harder route, the School of Hard Knocks.
Yep.
But that's given me a massive appreciation for the sorts of skills you actually need. So I used to joke, probably still do, that I'm not sure if I'd get a job at my own company anymore because of how sophisticated some of our people have become. But at the same time, I don't think you need a computer science degree to be passionate about blockchain technology and help customers commercialize it. So there's different types of roles for different people in our business. But I guess our reputation is that we're very we do things at a high level and we're super focused on commercial outcomes. So in other words, we don't want to build a science project that goes nowhere. We want to build something that you can point at and say that works and it solves a problem for somebody and its customers. So a lot of our people, buy into that purpose and kind of see themselves in our values. So in terms of technical skill, just going back to that for a second, I would say that we look for people with relatively high abstract reasoning, so people who can think outside of the box, because a lot of these solutions often haven't even been built before. Like we're building these things from the ground up, which is cool. But a strong computing background helps. But then I think it depends on the role. So one of the things we're actually spending a lot of time on for FY21 is with our development plans is I guess supporting people down either a technical path or a sort of people leadership path, because I've seen this my entire career. What happens is really strong technical people get over promoted to a management position, and they usually end up like living in that position where they're slightly out of their comfort zone, but they're not actually the best at that type of thing, right? So just because you're a technical wizard doesn't mean you'll be you'll be a people leader that people can get behind and kind of follow, right? So
you have to nurture that as well, right?
Totally, right? So what I'm trying to say is a technical person will get to the top of their pay grade and then they have to become a manager to get paid more. That's what happens with the best technical people. So in our business, we're looking to kind of grow people so they can be effective leaders and bring a whole bunch of technical people on that journey and to rally those guys without kind of pigeonholing them into a position just because they need that money. So I guess what I'm trying to say is respecting the person's natural skills and supporting them all the way through to kind of potentially being a CEO of their own company one day. You know, we think that, you know, people, product owners in particular, are fantastic candidates for being future CEOs because they're so commercially minded. They think about the vision of the product. They're thinking about the impact to the customers. Like, these are all facets you don't necessarily learn in a textbook, and you want to nurture that stuff. So, yeah.
Very true. Do you have a favorite thing about the blockchain ecosystem, especially in Australia?
In Australia, it's probably the only community I've ever been a part of where people go out of their way to help each other. And what I mean by that is, even in the very early days, I mean, Block8 was formed through a group of people that met at the Sydney Ethereum meetup in 2016 or something, early 2016, maybe late 2015. And so even then, people, you know, everyone in that room has a full-time job. People were taking time out of their weekends to train people. I mean, you're one of the best advocates in this space. I mean, the work that you do, you know, no one's forcing you to do it. So, you know, and that supports the community and people, you know, like Nick Addison and Boki Pubar, people like this that have really invested in people and training them up. I think it's awesome. So I've not seen that level of, I guess, community in technology generally. I think most technology industries are very much about IP and who owns it and, you know, all the secrets that come with that. Whereas I guess I found in Australia, and particularly the blockchain ecosystem, is very open. People are very much for open source. They're looking to give people, you know, a leg up into a job, or, you know, just so in general, I've just been super impressed by that, and I think that's what sets particularly blockchain apart from anything I've been a part of. But I think Australia globally has a very well-meaning, productive, and positive community. So I definitely think we've got one of the best communities in the world.
I agree, and I think we have the ability, the capacity, and the will to like really be leaders in this space worldwide.
Oh, for sure. And, you know, it makes sense, right? We're a highly educated country. We've got good government. You know, we're a wealthy country, and you know, we still have a say. You know, and the government's doing a lot of good things now. Treasury, you know, national roadmap, blockchain roadmap. I mean, you know, this is all starting to happen. So I think that we're in a really good place. Like, for instance, I don't see Australia as sort of being bogged down in, you know, the legacy systems as much as some other countries. So that kind of gives us a unique position to move and innovate quickly. So yeah, I'm optimistic.
Me too. So do you have any advice for people that well, there are two categories of listeners out there. There's the people who are completely new to the workforce. They're just, you know, in finishing uni, or they're finishing high school and they love computers, but they don't want to go to uni. There's also the people like yourself who sort of like had a whole career before working in the space. Is there anything that converge that is good advice for both?
Yeah, I think regardless of those two examples, something stuck with me for like many years now. They say that you are the average of the 5 closest people you hang around with. So if you hang around with 4 or 5, bigger the better. If you hang around, you know, with 5 strategic thinkers that are going somewhere and they're really testing themselves and they're lifelong learners, then you'll become one as well. If you hang out with 5 people that aren't necessarily going in the right direction and they don't share your passions and maybe they're not particularly ambitious, then you'll naturally go with them. So the thing that I've really been really appreciative of the Australian community, blockchain community, is that there's always something to go to. So if you have I guess a thirst for knowledge, there's someone out there that you can meet with and you can learn and share ideas. So, at the time when, for me, I'd kind of hit the top of the tree in IT, right? So I was doing pretty well for myself, but it was a very, how do I put this? Like, I'd seen it all before, right? Like I knew the answer. I felt like I knew the answer to the customer's question before they'd even finished, right? So I put the square peg in the square hole, because they're a very productized industry now. But the only way I would have learned anything about blockchain was to go out and test myself, and to go into these new rooms and meet these new people and learn more. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that you have to broaden your horizons, regardless of the fact you're in uni, the fact that you're in TAFE, the fact that you're working a full-time job. You have to put in extra work outside of those hours to go and learn new things. And preferably in person, to be honest. Those relationships will open doors for you as well. So my recommendation to anybody is to broaden your horizons, find a second group of people, maybe not your core group of people, but a second group of people that are passionate about the thing that you're into now, and spend time with them and educate yourself that way. And what you'll probably find is, after a while, is you actually may not want to be a developer anymore. You might want to be, the founder of a company, and you might find someone in that ecosystem that's actually a better developer than you are. And that's what happens to Block8, right? We've all kind of naturally moved away from being technical into other parts of the business. So yeah, that's the thing I would definitely leave with people, is you're the average of the 5 best people you hang around with.
That is great advice. I'm going to follow that too.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tim, so much for chatting to me today, and sharing your knowledge with the people out there. I will speak to you again soon.
Thank you, mate. See ya.
And that was the super awesome Tim Bass. If you have questions or comments for Tim, or simply just want to say hi, reach out to him on Twitter at tbass_block8, TBASS_BLOCK8. I will link his Twitter and LinkedIn profiles in the show's description for you. Also, send me a note if you have any questions or comments, suggestions for future guests. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell your friends. Every like, share, review, anything you do online to help get the word out there helps with getting more people involved in building the decentralized future. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you at the next block.